Good evening, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Owen Bligh, and I'm Associate Dean of Admission at Providence College, and we're pleased to bring you a presentation on the career education and professional development services offered at PC. To those of you admitted to our class of 2024, we hope this webinar provides valuable information as you look to solidify your enrollment plans for next fall. And for those of you just beginning your search, we hope this shares a good introduction and we'll have the opportunity to go into greater detail on campus with you when the current situation passes. Before I introduce my colleague, I'd like to provide a bit of housekeeping. Live closed captioning of this presentation is available by clicking the CC button on the top right of the window. Should you need additional accommodations for future presentations, please don't hesitate to be in touch with the Office of Admission, and a member of our staff would be happy to explore options for you. Following the initial presentation, we're pleased to host a question and answer session as well. Please submit your questions at any point during the presentation using the chat window. Now, I'm pleased to introduce Eileen Wisnewski from the Center for Career Education and Professional Development. Eileen has been a member of the Providence College community since 2011 after previous experience at Bates College and several private sector organizations. In her role at PC, she's responsible for helping students at the college discern and prepare for who they will be, ensuring they have the necessary tools and resources to be successful, and maintaining relationships with the hundreds of employers and organizations that have a relationship with the college. I'm pleased to introduce to you Eileen Wisnewski.
Thank you so much, Owen, and thank you so much for joining me here today. I am really excited to be here to walk you through some of the things that my amazing team is doing with our current students. And although I have a lot of things that I want to talk to you about, what I think is really important is to let you know exactly what we're doing in the midst of this crisis and how we're helping the current students that are here. So a couple of the things that you should have received, you probably received this document in the email, and this is what we call our snapshot, and we'll be going through this as I talk about some of our different programs. So the first thing that I think it's important to let you know that I actually worked remotely from home for 3 years for one of the companies that I worked for. So I knew pretty quickly how to get the team together, get them on the same page, have our focus, and really what our focus is making sure initially to start reaching out to the seniors and have student appointments. So we're using Zoom and we're using phone call so that we can make sure that the seniors that are feeling a little on shaky ground right now, that they're going to be feeling a little bit better once they meet with a coach. We also have the advantage is that I worked in commission sales. So one of the things that I actually just did this morning was I announced a contest for my team that I broke them up into groups of 3, and they will be reaching out and trying to have the most either student appointments or doing workshops virtually for students. So I can't wait to see what they have put together tomorrow. They're all picking their team names, so I think it will be pretty fun for them. First thing I want to talk about is that we do have the ability to do appointments virtually, and we've been doing this for a really long time. We work with our students when they're abroad to make sure that even though they're not able to come into our into the office in person, so we've been having either Skype or phone appointments with students for many, many years. So one of the things that we were able to do pretty quickly is just figure out how to use Zoom, which it seems like the whole world is trying to do right now, and to make sure that we're having student appointments with them. Another thing that we just did recently was we purchased this system called Big Interview. So it allows for students to practice doing videos first and foremost, but also to use the technology that's happening with the employers. Many employers are now looking at a virtual interview or a phone interview first, and then in person second. So this has been really great because our students can continue to do that. Another resource that we're using with our students right now is a system that we call FriarLink. And FriarLink is like if you had Netflix and you had LinkedIn and you put them together, this is what the system would have. So what I like about this the most is that regardless of how often we've talked about having our students use LinkedIn, the one thing that I do know from students is that reaching out to someone that they don't know is really scary. So within FriarLink, there's a couple of things that happen. One, it's completely PC friendly. So the alumni that go in are able to put in what clubs or organizations they were in, what major they had, internships, all of those different things that you don't necessarily see on LinkedIn. They also answer 2 questions, which I think are really, really helpful for students. The first one that they answer is, how can I help you? And by that, they're saying, I'm willing to talk about resumes or interviewing or what life is like after PC, all of those different things, so that if an alum says that they're very willing to talk to students about shadowing, then the student knows that if I call them and ask them to talk about shadowing, that that's an okay conversation. The other thing that it allows the alumni to do is they can go in and put the industries that they are comfortable talking about. So for example, I shared with you all that I was in commission sales, so I sold cars and I sold insurance. I would still be able to talk about that, even though my LinkedIn profile doesn't necessarily point to that. So I could put that I could talk about sales in addition to higher education. Another system that we have, and I do want to pause for 1 second because I'm really proud of my team. We implemented all of these systems in about a 1.5 to 2 year period. And if you've ever implemented new technology, you know how incredibly stressful and painful that can be sometimes. But my team really brought this all together. And it really was perfect timing because of the situation that we're in right now. So FriarLink, we talked about. Handshake is another system. Many, many schools are using this. It's probably the premier way of employers to post jobs and internships for students. They can sign up for events. The really great thing is that so much of the technology that's coming out today really is utilizing the technology field that young people are used to now. And it's that Netflix thing. So when we look at Handshake, the students can go through, create a profile, and then when they go back in, the system will show them positions that are relevant to them specifically because of the internships they put in, what they were interested in, the geographic location, all of that. Also, to go back on that, the push out, the Netflix piece, with FriarLink, the students, when they come in, once they fill out their profile, they're able to also see alumni that might be good matches for them right out of the gate, so that it takes another one of that layer, that onion layer of scariness out of that. We also recently purchased a system that's called Mach. Mach is an artificial intelligence resume reviewer. So students can actually have their resumes reviewed by this system 24/7, which has been great when we have students, for example, like health policy and management majors or education or social work. These students are out in the field all day. And so if they can't come in before 6 o'clock, which is when we close during the weekdays, they would be able to go in and have the system uploaded and review it. When they upload their resume, the system will say, these are bullets that are strong, these are bullets that are weaker, you've overused this word. So it really gives them a good breakdown of how they can do that. And what we're finding is that if a student goes in and has their resume into VMOC first before they have an appointment, then we can really have a different conversation with the students. Finally, the other thing that we're doing is all of our workshops are virtual, and we do have a professional skills program. So if you look at page 3 right here, you will see that it's called the Friar 4 Career Corps, and we are working with students so that they can develop their professionalism before they get to the world of work. What research has shown over the last few years is that colleges and career centers have done a great job getting students from school to that first job. But what's not happening so much in the world in general is that the students don't have these other skills, these essential skills, managing up, communication, presentation, things like that. So we are working with the students on that. To go through the snapshot briefly with you, if you go into the booklet, you will see on the first page on the upper left side, it's called our Did You Know section. So one of the things that you'll notice is that it does say the class of 2018 outcomes. So this will give you kind of a snapshot of what the class looked like in 2018. Some of you may be thinking that's 2018, that's quite a few years back. So what I'm excited to know is that we actually will have the class of 2019 data compiled and finished by probably in the next week or two. So we're just missing the most relevant, the most recent data. What happens in higher ed and with the career world is we do what's called the first destination survey. And that survey is, it's also called the 6 month out. So it starts from right after graduation until Christmas. And then all the data is compiled and then we get the results. And we usually get them about this time. So we're just missing that. A couple of things that's really important to note here is that 97% of the class said that they were either employed or in grad school. And what we also ask, which I think is really great, is that we say, are you employed in something that is relevant to what your education was about? And in this case, about 90% of the students said, yes, the position that I'm in right now is relevant to what I'm doing. It's not I'm working as a waitress or something like that. Another piece that I think that is great to point out is that 96% of the seniors indicated that they had some type of internship or career appropriate developmental experience. So for example, when we asked students if they had an internship, what we found was students that might be education majors would say, no, I didn't have an internship. I did student teaching or I had practicum. So we change it for career appropriate to capture all the things that are relevant for every single major. A couple of other things that I do want to talk a little bit about are some of the programs that we do. So before your student would come to campus, we work with Clifton Strengths, and we have every single incoming student take that assessment, and then we work with them as a coach when they come in for appointments. We have a great shadowing program that happens between the two breaks. We also have a bunch of different networking nights there's LA, there's Boston, there is New York City, and also in Hartford and DC. I don't know if I said DC too. We do treks where we get the students out of campus and bring them to the company so they can see that. We also are a Microsoft certification school. So we have the ability to have students go through the learning module, and then they can sit and actually if they're in the business school, they can get Bloomberg certified. They also can get Excel or any of the Microsoft certifications certified too. The last thing that I just want to talk about, because what I really want is to have some interaction and have some questions and answers, is we are really proud of our marquee event. So we have 2 monster expos. We call them career expos. The first one in the fall is usually in September. And I have to say that in a school of a little over 4,000, this past year, we had almost 1,700 students go to the event. So that's pretty exciting. We take over the entire field house, probably 140 organizations, grad school, volunteer, business organizations. We also have, as part of that, is the major minor fair. And the major minor fair is similar to a career fair when all the faculty, and they will bring some students, so they have their tables. So for younger students, they have the ability to come in and either question their major, figure out what their major is, maybe pick up a double or a minor, and they can go in and just have a one-on-one conversation with the faculty or student who's representing, and that's been really great. We also offer free LinkedIn professional headshots. So we have a photographer come in, and for the first 200 students, they get their headshot. And then what else do we have there? I think that's it. So that one was 1,600 students, almost 17. And in the spring, it's a little different because some students already have their internship or their job lined up. It's still trying to find its personality as well. And we are excited. We broke a record with the Spring Expo this year too, with about 840 or 850 students coming to that. So it's so exciting to tell you about it, but I think it's even better to see this video that we created just to show exactly what it feels like to go to our Expo, and then we'll open it up for questions. Owen? And before we go to questions, as Owen gets set up, one of the things that I just wanted to say that I've worked at Bates College. I worked here. It will be 9 years next month. One of the things that I really like about what we're doing here at PC is that we really have an approach about the whole person and what does someone's human flourishing look like for the rest of their lives. So when students come into our office, we don't sit down and say, here's a resume, let's talk about your resume. In fact, one of the things that I can't do is help a student with their resume until I know exactly who they are and what they want to do. And that's how we approach all of the appointments that we have with students. One of the things that we're doing right now with the students is every call, the first thing we say is, how are you doing? How is your family? Are you doing okay? We really genuinely care about every single student and our community. So it's been a real great pleasure being a part of this team. And now I guess we can go to questions.
All right, great. Thank you, Eileen. We do have a number of questions that have been submitted, but as you can see, if you have other questions you're looking to have answered, please feel free to submit them through the chat box. Some do overlap, so we may consolidate a couple, but we have a few to get us started right now. The first one would be, how do you actually sign up for the career expos?
So for the Expo, students don't have to sign up at all. They can just come in. It's actually quite exhilarating watching the waves of students coming in. In order to get down into Peterson, you have to go down a set of 2 stairs, and they'll come in groups of 20 or 30, and it really is like a wave. So on that same note with expos, what we're doing right now, there are a lot of different organizations out there that have virtual expos. So we're really trying to investigate what does that look like, just in case we're not really sure where we'll be. But we do really like our big expos in person. So hopefully we'll be there.
Perfect. Great. The next question that we've received is, what is the size of your staff and how personalized is the attention that students receive?
So we have a staff of 10 people. All of us do see student appointments. And I think that students will probably say that they do feel like there's a one-on-one individual. In some majors, it has to be that way. So for example, many schools, in fact, I joke because a lot of students will say that the Career Center is only there for the business school. When I worked at Bates College, the students said, you're only there for the econ majors. And the reason for that is that there are different seasons for different hiring. And when you look at accountancy, finance, consulting, it's really big, it's in your face, and that's what some of the students will see. So if we were talking about a chemistry major, we may need to have a one-on-one appointment with that person to be able to say, here's what we can do for you specifically. My team, I'm so proud of them. They really are just genuinely loving, caring people and really care about the person first.
Excellent. Our next question is, do you find that you're just a service for seniors, or is there any outreach made to those earlier in their time at PC?
Well, that is a great question. We actually have a motto, and I love it when I hear the admission tours coming through, Owen, because our motto is "Don't wait, Slavin 108." And our office is in the building Slavin, and our room number is 108. So we actually, when we look at the numbers of students that go to our Career Expo, a good chunk of them, and the majority probably, are first year and sophomore students. So we've been doing I think this messaging for probably 6 or 7 years, trying to get the younger students in. And I think that it really has worked. So maybe not first day, although I do see some students in there the first day on campus.
Great. We do have a number of students kind of earlier in their college search, high school sophomores and juniors, who are with us tonight. And kind of a follow-up to the question that was just asked would be, how common is it for freshmen and sophomores to secure shadowing opportunities?
That's a great question. And what we do is, when in the formal program, they may not get first choice because might be some seniors who didn't get picked before. With that said, what we are doing is working with students on a one-on-one basis, because you don't have to be part of the formal program. One of the great things with the system FriarLink is that students can make their own arrangements to have a shadowing opportunity with an alum anytime. And that's one of the things that we'll be doing with a big campaign going into the rest of the summer, is how do we get students really connected with alumni that are out there. I think that even in between you could even do it now if you're even a sophomore or junior, but any time that you can shadow someone, that can go on your resume, and that's really powerful. It's demonstrating your interest in what it is that you hope to do in your future.
Great. I believe this question would be in reference to the PC and Hollywood trips and some others, but when students travel to New York, LA, and so on to further understand their career interest, do they need to declare a major before or be in a certain grade level?
No, not at all. Many of the programs, let me take that back. So for PC in Hollywood, yes, that is usually for film minors to do that. If there's enough room, they do open that up. But when we look at our treks to Boston, to New York City, to DC, we do not require any classification level for the students or majors. In fact, one of the things that is really important for all of our students to keep in mind is that we are a liberal arts school at the heart of everything. And we want to make sure that students are understanding that the major doesn't necessarily equal what the career is. I know studio art majors who are very successful on Wall Street, so it doesn't have to connect.
Great. In the handout, this isn't part of the question, but so people know, in the handout, we did give a sample of recruiting organizations, but this question is asking, what are some of the larger employers for PC students?
So it is actually in both, just so you see this side here and then on the back side here. We really are working with a lot of the top employers, Goldman Sachs, if we're looking at finance, all of the big four. We do have a lot of entrepreneurial startups that are kind of growing up. If we think of advertising, I think of Mullen or Arnold, a lot of the big hospitals. So depending on the major, I think that we're doing a great job.
Excellent. The next question is, when you talk with employers, what would you say are some of the things that what do they say that, some of the things that PC students are weaker at, and is there anything planned to help with those deficiencies?
Great question. So we actually have done a lot of had a lot of conversations. And the one thing that we found, and I don't think that this is really specific to PC, but it was with analytical skills, most specifically with Excel. So when we were looking at, if I just refer to the students in the School of Business, they would take their Excel courses in the first 2 semesters. And this is not like riding a bike. It's a use it or lose it skill. So by the time they were ready for their internship or to graduate, they found that those skill sets were not necessarily as strong. So that is one of the reasons why we looked into becoming a Microsoft certification school. We also looked at within the School of Business, I can speak to that too. I know that they are infusing more Excel work into every class so that they have to do some projects and use that skill. So I would say that would be probably the biggest thing.
Great, thank you. Our next question is back to the Career Expo. How would you consider the turnout for medical professionals at that event?
So that's a great question too. You have great questions, everyone. It's a little more challenging when you're looking at medical professions because they don't necessarily have the bandwidth or the budget to send people to events. So we have to we pay for all that pipe and draping, and we have to charge a fee for them to come. So I would say that it's not as high, but we do the best job that we can to work with the organizations that we do get.
All right, we have 2 questions from different individuals, but kind of along the same theme, so I'll consolidate them. They're asking, do you see most graduates settle for jobs in New England, or does PC have employer alumni connections across the US, specifically Miami, New York, Los Angeles? And the second one is actually pretty similar. What are the outcomes for students whose home is outside the region and in an area where Providence doesn't have many alums?
So I would say, and Owen, you probably are better to answer this if we need to have statistics, but I think that a good majority of our students are coming from the greater New England area. And so we do have more of our students going in that direction. The great thing with the Handshake system that we have now is that it really helped PC, in a very small state, become a national reach school. So when we look at the positions that are posted, we probably get 100+ positions posted on a daily basis. It's like a fire hose. It's sometimes a little difficult to try to approve them all. And we try not to make this let's go through and check the boxes and approve everything. We want to make sure that the positions that are in our system for our students make sense. So for example, we wouldn't want an internship in the fall in Cincinnati to be posted in our system because that could be discouraging for the students when they clearly can't go and do that internship. We have positions posted from all over the country. one of the internships we saw last summer that I thought was fascinating was a summer internship in Hawaii working with bald eagles. So we do have a lot of opportunities, and the alumni network is incredibly strong. In addition to the positions that we normally have in our system, they are so devoted and dedicated. In fact, we are working with many alumni right now trying to create some videos that we can have so that our seniors can see that what they're going through right now may not be exactly the same as other students that might have been in challenging years, but there's other people that are there for them. So we're excited about that too.
Absolutely. Great. The next question is kind of admission related, but there may be some things from kind of a career education standpoint that you may want to chime in. And it's if there are any majors that students are not allowed to transfer into. And I can certainly answer the first part of that. In general, students are admitted to Providence on the whole, not to a specific school or program. So if you're undeclared, you have until late in your sophomore year to kind of make that change. There's going to be some small caveats with that. For if you're switching from undeclared to chemistry, they're going to look at your math and science preparation, some things like that. But for the most part, it really is just a conversation with that department chair. The only one that is an exception is to switch from anything into the School of Business. You do need to have a 2.5 cumulative GPA during your time at Providence, not based off your high school work. So that's the only one where there is kind of an actual requirement. I don't know if you would have anything else to add to that, Eileen.
No, the only thing that I do know with the School of Business as well is in the first year, we have a system that sort of is gamifying professional development, and it's called Suitable. And what it allows students to do is understand that the things that they're doing curricular and co-curricular wise helps to prepare them for the next steps. And each different thing, that event that they can go to has a different point value to that. And the students in the School of Business need to achieve 250 points. A workshop is probably 10 points, to give you some idea about that. And that's one thing, because I think the dean of the business school really values professional development and wants to make sure that the students are working toward that.
Great. Another question seems like we have a number of students who are undeclared, but just as how your office in particular supports freshmen or first year students who are undecided and not sure kind of what path they're headed towards.
Oh, absolutely. So we actually have a system that we use called Focus. And what students can do is they go in and they're asked a series of questions based on their values, their experience. And at the end, behind the scenes, there are the PC majors. So when they get to the end, it might say, oh, Eileen, you might be interested in psychology or maybe in sociology, so that they then can go to the Career Expo and talk with the faculty and staff there. And that's why we do that major minor fair in the fall. It's very early. If we're back in school, which hopefully we will be, that will be on September, I think it's the 23rd. So we try to make sure that happens in the beginning of the year. We also just sit down with the student and say, so what did you do in high school? What classes do you like? So with the student, we really want to make sure that they're making that first great step. What I can tell you too is that even people that are coming in with a declared major, they don't always stay in that major either. So I honestly think that coming in undeclared is great, because you're going to dabble in a lot of different things, and you may find the right major faster than someone who's coming in saying, I think I want to do this.
Excellent. The next question is a little bit separate, but certainly happy to answer for the admitted students. And the question is with regard to driving around campus right now, obviously with a month to go until the enrollment deadline. It is our suggestion, and we are discouraging any individuals from coming to campus. The buildings around campus are all closed, and our student and staff are working remotely. So there are just some of our public safety staff who are around campus. I personally have not been there in several weeks, so I'm not sure if people are able to drive on, but we would encourage everyone to please avoid campus at this time. I will put a little plug in 2 weeks, actually a little less than that. On April 13th, we will be launching Virtual Visit Week, which is trying to recreate the admitted student experience And there will be opportunities for virtual campus tours there, appointments with a number of different faculty and staff across campus, as well as engagement with our students. Some fun raffles. It's going to be more than just kind of a virtual tour. So certainly keep an eye on the admission status portal for that. But I do appreciate your interest in coming to campus and at least checking with us. But unfortunately, at this time, we are discouraging anyone from coming to Providence. We have another question back on the career education side. Are any of your staff specialized in certain fields or industries and working with just those majors, or are they all generalists for all the students?
So that we actually have a mix of people. So we do have some staff members that came from industry and now are continuing to work with those particular students. We did in our strategic vision a few years ago, we said, what if we are looking at, which we actually will have a new center in a few years. And when we said we were going to have this new center, how many people, like how many staff members do we want there, and what are they doing? So we do actually have our 3 different coaches that they are attached to the school. So one works with the students in the School of Business, one works in the arts and sciences, and one works in professional studies, which is health policy and management, education, and social work. So they do get a little bit deeper in that area. But overall, I would say that most of us are generalists. But we work really hard to find out about all the different types of careers that are out there.
Great. The next question is just about kind of specific programs. Are there any specifically for students who are in the liberal arts honors program?
Any particular programs? So the only thing that we have very specifically that calls out the liberal arts honors is that in our shadowing program, we do have some funding that was donated to the school to help those students that are in the liberal arts and sciences honors program to get to be able to get to and travel to where they need to go. So there is a small fund there. And that's, I think we work more individually with the students as opposed to that program.
Great, thank you. I would also add that it's not run through the Center for Career Education and Professional Development, but the honors program does also have a national mentoring program that pairs honors alums with current honors students for both academic mentoring, but I imagine there's some career pieces that also kind of come into that, as well as there's also the Honors Leadership Council. If you were a student who was given an invitation into the honors program, there will be a session explaining kind of the nuts and bolts of that program during virtual visit week as well. So I would encourage you to check that out. Our next question is kind of a repeat from before, but if you decided that you no longer want to be undeclared and want to transfer into a certain major before your first year begins, is it too late? How can we do that? And it is a little bit different than before. The question previously asked about specifically kind of determining your major while you're at Providence. If at this point you know that you do want to change your major, you can certainly reach out to the Office of Admission. Please email the counselor who's listed on the admission status portal, and that individual will be able to kind of consider your request. Similar to what I mentioned previously about certain preparation for majors. So if you're looking to switch to be a bio major, then we will look at your math and science preparation, certain things like that. But I would encourage you to contact the counselor on your portal and make the request to change your major that way. I would also recommend doing that before you submit your enrollment deposit. If you have not yet done so. It's just an easier process with less forms for you to fill out if you do that, and then certainly you can make your commitment to attend PC. And then the final question that we have for this evening is whether, we actually have 2 more. Could you talk about the career services and what is done for international students?
With international students, that's definitely a one-on-one basis. What we need to make sure is that the students are aware of the rights that they have, the rules and regulations that are there. So we partner with a number of different offices to make sure that the students are majoring in the best major that they possibly can, are aware of what's available to them, and make sure that they're on the right path. And sometimes those particular students might need need a little more support emotionally, because we every year it's different, even month to month. Sometimes the regulations are different, so we want to make sure that they're feeling as cared for and successful as we possibly can.
Great. And then for our final question, we actually have two. I'll combine them again. But whether your resources are only available for students when they're currently at Providence, or are they available for, one asked recent graduates and one asked alumni who have been out a couple years?
Yeah, so we do allow for support. We don't necessarily broadcast it broadly. One of the things we're actually doing right now is, in addition to working with the current students, especially our seniors, we're trying to figure out where is the bandwidth that if all of a sudden we had an influx of alumni requests, how can we help them? All of the systems that we talked about before, when we were talking about the VMOC, the big interview, the Handshake or FriarLink, those are all available to alumni as well. In fact, the college invested, when we first picked up the FriarLink, which is the networking system, it was just for students to be able to connect with alumni. And very quickly, we heard from young alumni, what if I want to use that for myself as well? So we were able to happily be able to purchase the other module that's connected to it to allow for alumni too. And we do have appointments. We try to limit them, especially during the academic school year, because we want to make sure that we're first and foremost there for the students, but we never turn anybody away.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who joined us this evening for our webinar. As a reminder, there are several more topics planned in the future, so we hope you join us in future Wednesdays to learn more about the global opportunities available at Providence College, the financial aid process, mental health resources available on campus, and more. And for those students who are joining us and admitted to the class of 2024, stay tuned to the admission status portal and make sure to submit your registration for virtual visit week. And then as soon as that goes live on April 13th, we'll send you a link so you can access that experience. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you to Eileen for joining us as well, and hope you have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone.